Mr. Mark Rice. He is running for the 8th District for U.S. Congress. For my gun friends, which I have a lot of gun friends, Illinois is obviously an entity unto its own, and they're making it harder to. The Second Amendment is kind of crumbling here. But I mean, do you have a feeling on guns and gun control? Because we have a lot of gun control out there, and particularly Chicago has some of the most stringent gun control in the nation and the highest murder rate.
Right. It doesn't work. It does not work. The notion of taking guns away from good people, from people that follow the law and just want guns for protection, forget hunting even. They just want to feel protected and safe. My community, as a Jewish community, everybody needs a gun. You were stupid not to have a gun. And most people I know who are anti-gun now are taking gun lessons and buying guns. I mean, to not have a gun is foolish. And in a place like Chicago, where exactly what you said, that where the laws are the most stringent in the whole country, we have the most gun violence of anywhere in the country. The people who commit acts of violence with a gun, by definition, they're criminals. They're not following the law, so they're not going to be slowed down by any laws limiting the purchase and use of any kind of firearms. So they have easy access to getting these guns, and they actually use them. And unfortunately, we don't prosecute them the way we should, and we let them out with cashless bail and all that. But Texas, they have very liberal per se rules about who can own a weapon and how many you can have and how you can purchase them and even use them. For example, if you use a gun, God forbid, but if you use a gun, if you shoot like somebody who's trying to kill you and you don't shoot them in your house, I think you go to jail. It's like there's a lot of really leftist ways that they look at people even defending themselves and using weapons and carrying weapons in the state of Illinois, and none of that is benefiting people. It's benefiting the criminals. So one of my little slogans is make crime criminal again. It's like we've basically legalized crime, and so we have a lot of it. And the fact that they've emasculated the public from owning guns has only made the situation worse.
I saw a story on ABC News here. It was a Chicago fireman. He had the cameras on his house, and he had a brand new Durango in the driveway, and 2 cars pulled up. 3 guys got out, and the first guy got out, and he stood in front of the Durango facing the front door with a assault rifle on a sling, looking at the front door, while the other 2 guys, now you're going, all right, well, there's a guy that if I walk out my door right now, he's going to shoot and kill me.
Right.
So can I shoot him? And the answer is,
I think the answer is no.
It's no.
Right. That's what I understand. Right.
And that's
what I meant, because he's not inside the house.
Yes. And that's crazy, because and I have cop friends, and I call them, what if this scenario happens? Like right now we're here and somebody's breaking in with a baseball bat. Can I shoot him? Not until they're inside and your life's in danger.
No, the laws are upside down in Illinois. I'll just give you one anecdotal story that happened to me and my daughter. We're walking my dog. I don't think I told you this. We were living in a building just right next to Trump Tower, right behind the Wrigley building there. So we're walking behind the Wrigley building, and a guy that to me fit the profile. You're not supposed to profile, but he fit the profile of like a gangbanger, or maybe somebody really hyped up on some kind of drugs, and he comes up to me and my daughter, and we're walking this little cute dog that I have, Milton. And he says, he just out of nowhere comes up to us, says, I'm going to effing kill you. I'm going to, he's like yelling at us. And then he says, and then I'm going to kill your effing dog too. And my daughter's like crying and freaking out. And I wasn't so worried because I can handle myself, and I too have a concealed carry and all that. But anyway, and I forget, I was just able to deflect him, and he went over and yelled at somebody else. So maybe he was just maybe he was even harmless. I don't know. But it was scary, And so we went over to a police officer. There's like no police officer around, and there happened to be one just right in front of the Wrigley building. So I'm like, officer, thank you for your service, first of all. But we just got threatened to be killed, and this guy is on the loose. And could you go, do something? Could you arrest him, give him a wellness check, do something this guy might really kill somebody, and might kill me too. I mean, he just threatened me. And he's like, well, did he knife you? Did he shoot you? And I'm like, oh, no. He goes, well, there's absolutely nothing I can do about it. And he said it not in a mean way. He felt bad about that. And he's like, well, let me ask you something. Where do you live? And I pointed at the building that we live in. It's just right here. I'm like, well, right there. Because I goes, oh, that's the problem. He goes, you shouldn't be living down here because I wouldn't let any of my family live here because it's dangerous. And he said, look, he goes, unless we get a new leadership, we just can't do our jobs. And it's very dangerous here. I would just move somewhere else. Go to Texas, go to Florida. He says, my retirement's coming up. I'm, of course, retiring. All my friends are leaving the force. I mean, they're having a lot of trouble, getting more police officers because of, I guess, these leftist policies that we have that doesn't allow them to do their jobs. And if they do their jobs and somebody takes a picture, they could lose their jobs or get sued or even go to jail if they say the wrong thing or look the wrong way or pull their weapon when they're not supposed to. We don't enable law enforcement to do their jobs. And again, that's a failure in leadership. That's failure in policy. Those are good cops. Those aren't bad cops. They're great cops. But they're not allowed to do their job because the rules don't enable them to do that.
Is Texas open carry? I don't remember.
Yeah.
So I would never open carry, even if I lived in an open carry state, because that kind of gives your hand away.
Yeah, that's
I would
true.
conceal anyway.
But I would give you another good story. You'll like this. I was with a buddy of mine from Chicago. I had a house in Dallas, like a second home in Dallas, in Texas. It's where my mom lives in Fort Worth. And until recently, I had that anyway. And so we went to a place called Buc-ee's. Have you ever heard of Buc-ee's before? Oh, some of your viewers have been to Buc-ee's. It's got to be the largest convenience store in the world. It's like the size of a Walmart, but it's a convenience store. And there's like 50 bays to get gasoline. They've got Tesla chargers. And then the store they make food. They have restaurant. It's like a department store. Anyway, it's a whole thing. And so in the store must be hundreds of people anyway, maybe over 1,000 people. It's a big store. So my friend is from Chicago and isn't so experienced with Texas. And he says to the guy, because there's a lot of money being transacted, and convenience stores often get robbed. It's a common thing around the country. And he's like, don't you worry about getting robbed? Or do you guys get robbed a lot? This is my buddy who's like never left Chicago, who's visiting me. And the guy just starts laughing. He was like a young man. He starts laughing. He's like, are you kidding me? He's like, you know how many people have guns in this store? If somebody ever tried, he wouldn't make it past, the other register. He'd be stopped. So they have never had any robberies. And there's a certain truth to the element of deterrence, of just knowing that people are good people and trained on how to use a weapon, and they will protect themselves. That, I think, gives a criminal who wants to do harm, because there's plenty of evil in this world, and we've talked about some of it, gives them pause for concern. I mean, they're just not going to do it. They're going to find a softer target, I guess. They're still going to do evil. We can't really change them from doing evil, but as long as there's a consequence, you can, I think, minimize the damage.
Well, I can't blame the cop for telling you what he told you. That was actually very sensible advice.
Sort of nice, yeah. He had good intent.